Coming up, reproductive justice, trans and queer liberation, Aparna Raj for DC Ward 1, and how you can join the socialist fight. But first, our main story, the ongoing ICE assault on American cities. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the MDC Dispatch. I'm your host, Tony, bringing you the news and updates from Metro DC DSA. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and be on the lookout for a new Dispatch episode on the first and third Sunday of every month. Less than 2 weeks ago, an ICE agent murdered Renee Nicole Good. Despite widespread outrage, the battle for Minneapolis continued, and ICE agents shot another unarmed Minneapolis resident exactly 1 week later. At time of recording, ICE isn't retreating. They're expanding their operations throughout Minneapolis and the surrounding area, showing up at schools, hospitals, indigenous centers, and homeless encampments throughout Minneapolis, and even expanding into other cities. They're waging war on Minnesotans. Reports, images, and videos of agents going door to door looking for immigrants to detain, dragging people down the street and shoving them into unmarked vans and destroying anything in their path. Storefronts, apartments, windows have all been confirmed by those living under the oppressive arm of Trump's regime. Though this behavior in Minneapolis isn't new, Trump's regime has been trialing these tactics over the last year. It has been playing out with a heightened sadism as Trump openly threatened the city on January 13th. Your day of reckoning and retribution is coming. The regime is sending a message to the nation by sacrificing a blue city they see as disloyal. But Minnesotans aren't backing down. The people have been organizing defensive maneuvers to frustrate ICE since their first appearance in Minneapolis, which has now evolved into a citywide block-by-block struggle. In addition to all that goes into resisting on the ground, like daily patrols, Minnesota's labor movement has called for a general strike on January 23rd. Meanwhile, in D.C., where MPD, the D.C. police, are continually collaborating with ICE and other agents from the alphabet soup of federal agencies, residents aren't backing down either. Vigils for those abducted and rallies calling for the abolition of ICE have become an almost daily occurrence. An anonymous DSA member delivered a fiery speech at one of the rallies, calling for an end to the occupation and a ban on all federal immigration enforcement in the district. At a Families Not Feds rally on January 15th, DSA-endorsed candidate Aparna Raj spoke about ICE's violence in Ward 1, tying it back to other issues the district is facing, like the repeal of I-82, voters' decision to end tip minimum wage, and the lack of affordable housing. But unlike in other cities, DC's government isn't interested in protecting its residents. Mayor Bowser has called the repeated inquiries into MPD's blatant collaboration with ICE ridiculous. He's also stated that she and interim police chief Jeffrey Carroll will not respond to the demand from district residents for an oversight hearing focused on this collaboration, which just means that the organizations actually working to protect DC will only continue to show up. To get plugged in, follow Families Not Feds and the chapter's Community Defense Working Group on Instagram, linked in the description. The Bodily Autonomy Working Group held a kickoff event last week to reflect on accomplishments in 2025 and set goals for 2026 and beyond. This working group includes 2 issue-based campaigns, reproductive justice and trans and queer liberation. Reproductive justice's accomplishments in 2025 included packing thousands of emergency contraception care kits, raising thousands of dollars for the Whitman Walker Clinic and DC Abortion Fund, creating a new abortion resource guide, providing political education on abortion access, and organizing new teams focused on legislation, Narcan distribution, and security. The campaign set goals for 2026 to include another care kit packing fundraiser, more political education, a campaign to enshrine marriage equality and abortion into the Virginia Constitution, a campaign to get child care and reproductive health included in the DC Council budget, a Narcan training event in DC, attending more protests, and distribution of emergency contraception and Narcan across the region. On the trans and queer liberation side, accomplishments in 2025 included working to restore Medicaid funds for gender-affirming care and Planned Parenthood, which were stolen by the Trump administration, stopping an executive order that would have ended gender-affirming care for youth at a local hospital, countering disinformation about gender-affirming care, Trans Day of Vision and Resilience events, supporting local pride events, the passage of Arlington's Trans Sanctuary Resolution, Fairfax Schools Trans Day of Visibility Resolution, and work to keep school bathrooms safe for trans and gender diverse children. For 2026, goals include more Trans Day of Vision and Resilience, spaces for healing and struggle, continued support for pride events, trans sanctuary legislation in more Virginia counties, organizing for constitutional amendments protecting marriage, choice, reproductive care, and voting rights in Virginia, expansion of Maryland's Trans Health Equality Act, forcing the Maryland Department of Health to publish mandatory reports that are now weeks late, and in DC, joining with grassroots trans-led groups for mutual aid and prisoner support. The campaign's goals for 2026 are wide-ranging, from fundraising and distributing care kits to both hosting and participating in community events and campaigning for changes to local laws and government policies. Here's a highlight from the remarks of former Metro DC DSA Chair and DC Council candidate for Ward 1, Aparna Raj.
But it's so great to see you all here today. I joined DSA because there were a couple moments in my life where I felt a little hopeless, where my dad got laid off and had health scares, and I saw DSA as the organization that was fighting for Medicare for all. We have a room full of people who are ready to fight for our right to abortion, our right to reproductive justice, and the right for queer and trans people to just live as we are and to live freely without fear. When we see single mothers facing higher rates of eviction, when we see queer and trans people more likely to be homeless, when we see queer youth kicked out of their homes, we have to lower the rent, we have to invest in affordable housing, and we have to invest in homeless services to make sure that every single person has a safe, stable home in DC. So I am running because I want to lower the rent, I want to expand rent control for every single multifamily building, I want to fund free childcare, I want to give workers more power on the job. When we see women, especially Black and brown women, and queer and trans people more likely to live in poverty and make lower wages than men or their cis counterparts, if we want every single person to be able to live a full and dignified life, that starts with workers. That starts with people being paid a dignified wage. And we see politicians now, especially Democratic politicians, trying to capitulate to Trump. We see the Trump administration, we see the billionaires and the oligarchs trying to divide the working class, trying to pit people against each other, trying to pit immigrants and people of color and queer and trans people, make it feel like we can't exist. Make it feel like there is someone else, one of us is to blame for the reason why we can't afford rent or for the reason why we can't afford groceries, to distract from the fact that it's them. And so we know as workers, as socialists, the only way to beat fascism is solidarity with each other. It is socialism. It is coming together across identity, across gender, across race, and demanding what we deserve. We have the opportunity to create a government in DC that works for us, that will protect us and fight for us, that will fight for renters and workers and immigrants and queer and trans people to not just be able to live dignified lives, but live lives full of joy and everything that we deserve. And so I'm running for Ward 1. If you live in Ward 1, amazing. If you don't live in Ward 1, I still will fight for you, and I still am so excited to talk to you and hear about some of your issues and what you care about. This is about more than just one campaign. This is about more than one seat. This is about every single one of us finally having a city that we deserve. So thank you all so much again, and I'll be around.
Can we give one more woo and round of applause for Aparna?
You can support the work of these campaigns. Learn how at the links in the description. You can join the chapter for any of this huge slate of events coming up in the next few weeks. RSVPs for the following events are linked in the description. Are you interested in mass transit related issues? Do you love the DC Metro? The Transit Working Group will be hosting a virtual meeting on January 19th to discuss upcoming opportunities to collaborate with other working groups, developing working group priorities for 2026, and developing the working group's leadership structure. It's a new year, and there are new opportunities to stand with organized workers. If you want to get involved, the Labor Working Group will be hosting its monthly meeting on January 20th. Also on January 20th, the Nova branch will be hosting a panel to discuss the history of U.S. intervention in South America. This is especially topical in light of the continued U.S. imperialist aggression against Venezuela and the kidnapping of Nicolas Maduro. Come join MDC DSA Socialist Feminist section for the monthly happy hour at Red Bear Brewing Company on January 22nd. The Bodily Autonomy Working Group, in partnership with EC4DC, will provide reproductive and sexual health care kits at this event. Join for conversation, drinks, and camaraderie. The Prince George's County branch will be hosting its January General Body Meeting on Saturday, January 24th. Come meet your PG comrades and be part of the process of governing the branch. New members are welcome. Metro DC DSA will be holding the first General Body Meeting of 2026 on January 25th. You can get more involved and be part of the decision-making process that governs what we do as a chapter. This event will be held both in person and virtually. And as always, stay for the fun happy hour after the event. Subscribe to the weekly update for the most up-to-date list of events every week at the link in the description. More than just DSA is hosting events in the coming weeks. Here's a few upcoming events from our allies in Metro DC. At Greenbelt's New Deal Cafe on January 19th, join Reel and Meal Film for a showing of Refuge. The film follows the unlikely relationship between a former Ku Klux Klan leader in rural Georgia and the Muslim refugees he once hated, focusing on how personal contact can undermine prejudice. On January 20th, the one-year anniversary of Trump's inauguration, Free DC is calling on everyone who is sick of this administration's attacks on DC to leave work at 1 p.m. and rally for a free DC. Team up with friends, co-workers, or neighbors in your ward to take this action together. Meet at Freedom Plaza to show our power and participate in a special collective activity. Head to Kahlo House on January 31st for Voices of the Movement. They will have music, activities, an art gallery, drinks, and empanadas for a donation to benefit mutual aid groups. This gathering centers powerful performances and thought-provoking art while bringing people together in community and shared purpose. Also on January 31st, attend the virtual class Protest First Aid 101. The class covers all the basic information you need as a civilian to be prepared to help with various medical events that may come up during a protest or demonstration. You will learn how to respond to common medical emergencies, what to carry in your protest first aid kit, and more. Find these activities and many more on the calendar of events on the Metro DC DSA website or in the full weekly update, also linked in the description. The Democratic Socialists of America is growing. If you're not a member of DSA and would like to connect with other like-minded activists, community organizers, and neighbors, visit dsausa.org and join today. Metro DC DSA is the third largest chapter in America with over 3,000 members. We're very active in the community and have groups focused on labor, tenant rights, LGBTQ rights, environmental activism, and much more. DSA is the largest socialist organization in America, and we would love to have you as a member. These and other stories, along with links and sources, can be found in the Metro DC DSA Weekly Update newsletter, which you can find linked in the description. This production has been a collaboration of members of Metro DC DSA. Look for new videos on the first and third Sunday of every month. I'm your host, Tony, signing off with a reminder, a better world is possible.